Good evening. This is the Planning Board meeting of July 10th, 2018. If you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First on the agenda tonight is an approval not required plan. Sean M. Dion, 19 Purchase Street, and it's Assessors Map 52, Lot 2-47. We have a receipt of plans.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, tonight we're just receiving the plans. I have here copies. At our next meeting on July 24th at 7 o'clock, we will be taking a vote to confirm or to not confirm those plans.
So we don't have those in our packet tonight, but we'll see them the next meeting.
That's correct.
All right. All right, the next is Form B, Glenn Piolo, 0 Plymouth Street. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Right on the hip.
Yeah, if you could just...
John, is it okay if he uses your...
I didn't know what you wanted. I didn't know if you guys had your own. Thanks, guys. We're just here.
If you could maybe bring that microphone close to you so you can speak into it.
Sure.
As best you can.
We're basically here to, we've designed this for 32 units. And we got some questions on, are we meeting the zoning? You got your zoning bylaws and then your townhouse regs. We've designed it to that and met the subdivision regs as close as possible for the road. We spoke to the fire department and we think we've got the roadway, it's 24-foot lanes both ways in. We're only narrowed down at probably the last 60 feet to a 20-foot taper coming in on each side of the island. You still got 2 complete roads. We meet the 600-foot to the end of the cul-de-sacs on the other 2 legs. Drainage, septic, I mean, we shouldn't be having to ask for waivers or anything on any of it, especially under the townhouse regs. You know, if you go to those, this is a little over, you know, I mean, if you go down to 20-foot roads and this and that. So we do have the 24-foot roads. We've got the sidewalk down one side. We're going to be loading on the septic. I know we looked at the 40B plan that they had submitted before, and it seemed like one of the concerns was the Title V and the septic. At the flow on an over 55, we're going to be 150 gallons a day, so we're down to 4,800 gallons. We're at like 17% of what they'd allow in a well protection zone, so it's not even in the zone 2, and we're loading at like a quarter of what, you know, Title V allows. So I think that should make people happy because, like I say, and we've spread it out into 3 points on the lot so that, you know, you're not saturating one corner with one big field. So, and I guess I just wanted to have your input to see what you guys thought about the plan. I don't know if you just had a chance to look at it, or you're just seeing it now.
No, I'm just seeing it right now. Stephen, do you have anything to say about this? You know, where has this gone so far?
So far in your packets, members, you have a memo that was prepared by Kevin Forg, our health agent. He asked some clarifying questions, handwritten in there. You'll see my handwriting. After speaking to the applicant, he presented us with those answers. They were satisfactory to the health agent. Also contained in your folder is a memo from Jesse Boyle from the fire department, who expresses his issues and concerns. Frankly, they appear nominal. Maintaining the width of the road is certainly an issue. Also contained in your folder is a statement from Sam Hemingway, who's here with us this evening. Fuss and O'Neill did do a peer review on the project and did contribute some thoughts and commentary. Also in your packet, before I kick to Sam, if that's okay with you,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, there's a copy of the road layout that the applicant had cited earlier. It was done by Land Management Systems, received by the town on 2/18/16. Looks like this. His road configuration is, Glenn, unless I'm mistaken, is similar to what you see or what you would have seen in 2016. Having had a conversation with Sam, who will speak for himself certainly, and following up with Jesse, The only other major concern was seemingly on the farmost part of the property to the right of that map. There's a cluster that has an extended driveway beyond the cul-de-sac.
Okay.
Making certain that the fire apparatus could gain access to that site and comfortably back up or turn around was an area of concern for our peer review team. And of course, it was expressed to us as a concern by the fire department, but not necessarily an impediment to progressing with the project.
Say one thing to that, just so you guys, we redesigned this from the original plan to meet the road width, 600 feet off the cul-de-sacs. We were gonna put the buildings just around it without those driveways going in a big, and we thought it was better because I thought it was easier for everything, the fire trucks, every access to the buildings. It was a much better design, but this design met your townhouse regs, all the driveways, 24-foot wide lengths, everything else. So I mean, we basically redesigned this to that, to meet your regulations. Originally, we wanted a little longer cul-de-sac and to place the buildings around it. It would seem like a much better access for everybody, the fire trucks, everything in general. And then, like I say, after talking to the fire department, we brought the road in two lanes. So that's where we got this design. That was to meet the townhouse regs, so.
Mr. Chairman, I think, and forgive me, Glenn, I'm not sure if you mentioned it, but you had a plan for the street or how it was going to be owned, maintained, and operated after the conclusion of the project, the build project.
So this will be a condo association, a condo development. So basically, it brings no liability to the town. In the street back, there'll be a water gate at the end of the water meter. You guys will collect the water bills, just like we're doing one in Hanson, and it's the same thing. The water main, everything on site remains till the end. There's no way for them to take back the road because it don't meet zoning anyway. So what happens is any maintenance on the whole water system is on the condo association. So years down the road, steel pipe lasts forever anyway. So it's like we're talking, we'd all be dead, but there's no liability to the town. And I guess the other thing is any maintenance on the road. I talked to the highway department, and basically what they said, if it's privately owned and maintained, we have no issues at all because we're not going in there, and you're still meeting the safety requirements. Whatever the fire department wants, we're gonna give them what they want. I will say, this redesign that we did, like I say, to meet the regs, I do think like 600 feet's a real short length of a road to end of a cul-de-sac. First plan we had with them around it just seemed like a much better fit, but we were told we should meet the regs, on the townhouse, then the road length was an issue, so that's why we came to this, But we do have full width driveways to all of them. You'll have a straight path in with the fire truck at the end of the driveways, 24 width, full width.
Sam, do you have anything to add to this?
Well, I think I just want to reiterate, I think there's a lot of truth to what he said in terms of the road and the lengths of the road, understanding that is what's written in terms of the length. It does present some problems, some issues with the layout and the clumping of the homes, and if there's latitude on the length of the road, working with the fire chief and this board, there might be some additional room in terms of improving the layout. I think I agree with that. We didn't write down, but I think the dual entrance, that long, wide entrance, there's a lot of pavement there. Similarly, I think it's the board probably wants to consider about if there's relief. The applicant has presented an option that is wholly compliant or most as compliant as it can be. That doesn't necessarily mean it's that might be reason to look at backing off and doing some other things, allowing some relief from those to try and reduce the pavement heights. There was a minor question about lighting on the project. I know it doesn't really come up until a little bit later in the project, but because it's it's not a public road, whether or not there would be street lights, probably something that we want to talk about. Make sure that the next stage addresses that, and then lastly is I think One of the provisions of the bylaws does suggest that some amenities be placed in. I haven't seen the plan that's up on the board, but in terms of pedestrian flow, the plan that was originally submitted didn't have sidewalks. The provision for amenities and the like is obviously would be crucial to the viability of the project, and certainly should be shown at the next stage. We agree that there wasn't anything at this level of design that couldn't be worked into the project. It's mostly whether or not the board is supportive of a townhouse development at this site. The bylaw is there. This purpose, this is compliant with the requirements of the bylaw.
We do it, just so you guys do know, we did submit original plans that you guys have showing the original layout. The main sticking point was that we were trying to get them to call, even if we put this cul-de-sac, we didn't have a cul-de-sac, we came into 2 legs. Even if we put this cul-de-sac in, so it was a full turning radius for the fire truck, and made this even wider, wider than 24, if we could get what we wanted to go with, that's how that shows. And this new plan shows the sidewalk and the water and lighting and all that. We'll do whatever you want on that. We have no problem with that, Whatever the town wants us to do with the lighting is fine.
To reiterate, that eastern portion, I think, is something that wants to be looked at further, again, as it progresses, where there's a cul-de-sac, and then beyond that is effectively an extension of the road for another 300 feet. If you look at the plan, there's a travel townhomes anyway. Doesn't have a turnaround at the end of it, so it does introduce this notion of a fire truck having to, potentially back up with somebody coming, an ambulance, a second vehicle behind them, and having to coordinate that. It's I think an unnecessary cluster of activity to meet a specific requirement. It's getting around the intent to meet the literal interpretation, and I think that, again, that's probably something that would want to be looked at a little bit harder.
And that's all that was for, was to meet the townhouse guidelines. So essentially this, on the townhouse regs, this isn't gonna be an accepted road. So this whole system is one big driveway, it's gonna be a privately owned driveway in the end, But the end here, the 24-foot width and the 24 width, even the chutes off of it, you're basically just extending a road and calling them driveways, but it's really the only way we could do it and meet that without, some kind of relief on the setback for the 600 feet,
And are you anticipating that the driveways are going to be plowed as part of the homeowners? Or?
Yeah.
That's again where the overlay. So if
driveways, roadways, how we do it at the other one we have is, the total maintenance is on the condo association. So we set up a condo association from the beginning, because that's the other question I have is, you wouldn't be releasing lots like an accepted road, so we'd have to know how you guys handle, you mentioned the bond and everything, and that's fine, but it isn't like a release of a lot, because it's going to be multiple units, and it would be like a bank releasing a building for mortgages, so really we would have to get to the bottom of how that would all work too, It's all, at the end of the day, this is just one big lot, it's not, nothing's going to be subdivided. We're not creating frontage, so we're really not. There's nothing that can ever be. Nobody could even petition the town to ever take this back, because it wouldn't meet the requirements for the road anyways. So I'm saying that for the setbacks for the buildings and the lots. So
Chief Weston is here tonight. I guess before we open up questions to the board, if you'd like to speak.
Thank you. Thank you for recognizing me. I'm here in replace of Assistant Deputy Chief Boyle. We happen to have 3 different meetings going on at the same time tonight, so I drew this straw. So I'm going to refer to his comments. I have been involved in the project. The applicant, just to be transparent, the applicant did come into the fire station on 2 occasions to ask us some opinions. We had directed them right to your town planner and got permission to talk with him. So, I think he's definitely trying to do the right thing, and we tried to give him some honest feedback based on what he was showing us. Okay, so that's what I can only comment on. Obviously, it's a very odd-shaped lot, and as a fire department, there is a bylaw that if a roadway is over 600 feet in length, it should have an emergency access road. And that emergency access road can be 12 feet wide, it can be an all-weather surface, and it has to be cleared 2 feet on either side. We have many developments in this community that have that, anything that's over 600 feet. I think Mr. Deli knows that, he's got 1 or 2. So we adhere to that standard. And so I would ask the planning board to adhere to a standard that we developed. Now, the plan that's shown is obviously, from a fire department standpoint, it would meet our requirements, okay? It has 24-foot roadways. The second entrance coming in is obviously a second 24-foot roadway, and that was put on there, I think, to make it emergency access, and then you measure 600 feet from that, and that makes it work. The condos down the end, if I will call them condos or townhouses, they have 24-foot roadways. They can call driveways. I know they're not called roads. That's your purview, not ours. They meet our width standards, okay? For a firefighter operation, that could work for us. We would require that it had a hydrant distribution system in there, like all developments in Carver do. So that would be required. I will tell you, the emergency access road can be 12 feet wide, okay? It can be unpaved. How that gets drawn is not my, that's up to them to be creative on that. With an odd-shaped lot, it's very hard to get an emergency access road to the back of that. So I think that's why you see the drawing that you have. Those are the things that we kind of look for. I know it was proposed that there will be water provided to the development, and our only comment was that if you have 2 or more connected units, they need to be sprinkled, okay? And those can be sprinkled with a residential sprinkler system, which means you could have 300-gallon tanks in the basements to run a sprinkler system. It's common. We have many units in town that have that same system. They don't operate on town water. They're a separate system in the residence. It's a very simple system. So if there was enough water for that from the town water supply, great, they could connect to it and sprinkle it that way. If not, they would have to put that type of system in the building. We do ask for some courtesy when the roadways get named to make sure that they get run by public safety. And as the fire chief, I have been delegated through EMS and police to try to represent them with the planning board. Normally it would be Jesse here and not myself, but we try to all look for the same things. We all kind of say if a fire truck can fit in there, it's pretty certain that we can get an ambulance in there or a police car. So we kind of look at it that way, kind of all on the same page. So that's how our involvement has been. I really don't want to comment on the plan itself. I mean, that's everyone has their own taste and their own flavor. I just ask that as the plan develops, you remember that we do look for 24-foot roadways. We do look for an emergency access if the developer is going to go longer than 600 feet, and that's their choice. That's their choice to want to do that. So how that gets done, again, I think that's a little unorthodox, but it works. I mean, that's all I can say. But that's for the planning board to decide. So I'd certainly answer any questions if you had any, if I missed something.
We've already gone over this with the chief, so.
Can I ask one question that might limit the asphalt coming in? So that 12-foot roadway, we're eating up, 48 feet on the pavement. Could that 12-foot roadway be a gravel access road out to that same cul-de-sac that just gets hidden with landscaping, but a straight access without full pavement?
And that's not uncommon that that's done. We have other ones that, they're a gravel roadway. If you're going to gate it, we ask you to put our lock on it so we could get through it. But the roadway has to go to a point where it's no more than 600 feet from there.
Well, I guess what I'm asking right here is we come in with a standard roadway, one road, and we try to do like a buffer on the side with trees or whatever, and just get a 12-foot gravel pass that meets this cul-de-sac at the same spot. It gets rid of some pavement. It just.
I guess what I would ask for, I mean, again, and I'm trying to show you the courtesy of catch me on the spot, I would ask for as much buffer between those roads as possible. And why we ask for that, if you go back to the March storms or any storm you want to pick, all the trees that come down, a person, an ambulance or a fire truck has to get into a residence, we have to hike in. And it wasn't uncommon during the past storms to have to do that or cut our way in. So that's why we try to at least have one other alternative that we can get in a back way or some way that might not be blocked. When two roads are right side by side, is that the best alternative? No. But I don't think the bylaw distinguishes enough of where that has to be. So I think it's a little gray area there that could be worked on. So I would say that it'd be separated as much as it could, and then we'd have to look at it. I mean, I
Right, we
couldn't
could-
comment now on that.
If you're looking for, just so I know, like for designing wise, so when I'm talking to my engineer, grading wise, we could make it work, so if you were looking for a 12-foot gravel way, if we did a buffer, a tree line down the property line, and we got 12 foot, and then it's still gonna be kind of, it's tight at the mouth, 'cause it's 57 feet or whatever, but it does work, and we do open up down here, so we could keep a 12-foot gravel, driveway down the property line, and still do a buffer, and it would never be used unless it was an emergency anyway, so it's something we could look at.
I would go through the planning board on that, and I would, go through them and talk to them about that.
I guess I'm more asking you if that's something you guys would accept, because it would be a 12-foot road coming just down here, you'd have a 12-foot gravel road.
I guess through the planning board, and again, I don't want to speak for them, I'd have to look at that and see how it's drawn. I mean, I can envision what you're saying, but I'm not going to comment and tell you that would work right here. So I got to see it on paper.
Any questions by the board members? Will, do you have any questions?
I'm all set for now. I'm just taking a peek at it, so
Okay.
I got
Jen, do you have anything?
Not a question, but a comment. I think it's a positive thing that you're developing townhouses or condos, because as you cited in this handout, the master plan does emphasize the need for future development to be something other than single-family houses. But the master plan also says that it would like Carver to have more options for young families and first-time homebuyers, people who were raised here and then can't afford to live here. So I would have preferred to see something that wasn't age-restricted, that allowed everybody to enter the market. But it's nice to see something other than single-family homes. I just wish there wasn't a restriction.
That's you guys too. We missed the cutoff by like 2 acres to do conventional. We have to do over 55 because we're doing 5 acres in Carver. It goes to 20 and we're like at 18 on this lot. So we would rather, trust me, we'd rather have a broader base of people to sell to too. That's totally just to meet you guys' regs.
There's not enough acreage to.
It's 20 acres for over 55.
Okay.
I mean 20, yeah,
Okay.
just conventional.
Okay.
5 is over 55, so that's how we came up with that.
Well, I do like the idea. I mean, this is quite a different concept than we had from the 40B. There's quite a reduction in the number of units. In some ways, I like it, the age restriction. I've been asked by people in town, we'd like to see someplace other than the parks where over 55 people could live. So I like that idea. This would cut down on any kind of septic issues, you would think. So that's good too. I don't know about the road length. You're saying that if we could waive the 600-foot length, that would help?
Well, if you looked at Stephen probably has the first plans, because I left them in case you did have an option. The first plans we put in, the roadway lengths were over, but we were making just over the 600 feet from like a hammerhead lot that just went off both ways. We could still put a cul-de-sac in there for a turnaround, do a 12-foot gravel road. And if we had some length off those roads, if we called it, instead of the center line on Plymouth Street, if we called it like the center of the cul-de-sac and we branched off that way, it would help, It's just to make it so it isn't such a cluster, that's all, I'm just trying to, this is solely to meet everything we did here, I just told them, I says, take their regs and just meet them if it works, and then we'll take it from there, and that's what we came up with.
I don't know, in town, have we allowed, or given a waiver for the 600-foot road length before?
I've been here, Mr. Chairman. I'm not aware, but frankly, only since November, I'm unaware.
And then you'd be using town water too, so that's a good thing.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, I did have an opportunity to speak to the small water systems operator for the North Carver Water District. They did confirm that they spoke to the applicant and that there is adequate volume to be able to tap into. And in their words, they communicated to me that it would be a boon to the North Carver Water District to have this many paying customers. And if I may also, Mr. Chair, I think, well, I might have missed, I probably didn't hear you say this, but another dimension of the zoning that the applicant has committed to is the inclusionary zoning component. 3 of those units
3 units would be...
will be considered affordable.
That's a plus, yeah.
And for an elderly or aging community, that I think would be beneficial to the community. But what's more, lest we forget, 80% of our median household income in town using HUD numbers is $80,000 a year. So the inclusionary zoning units, the affordable units that the applicant is talking about is developing is going to be targeted or marketed to those folks who are at 80% of the AMI.
All right, that's all the questions that I have right now. Kevin, do you have?
I do. Can you just tell me exactly whether this is coming off of, at what point on Plymouth Street is it coming off of, or would it be coming off of Route 44?
Coming off of Plymouth Street. I wanna say
By the Agway?
just after, what's the name of that road there?
No, so where the Cumberland Farms is.
Oh, okay.
You go down towards the Cranberry Bog and before the Cranberry Bog on the right.
It's right after, I think,
So
Arrowhead.
before
Is
you
that
get
Arrowhead?
to the industrial park, before you get to the industrial park,
Okay.
it's on the left-hand side.
So
It's
you're on the
Cranberry-
other side of,
I think it's after Arrowhead. I think it's Arrowhead. on the
After
left there.
Arrowhead, yeah, thank you.
It's very close, it's like maybe
okay.
600 yards past us.
So that's down past the, where Marion Way is. I think that's the industrial park.
It's
It's way
closer,
before
it's
that.
way
It's after
closer.
Arrowhead.
It's right after Arrowhead. It's in between, it's before the landfill and the motorcycle track. and everything.
Okay.
You know, the planning board had walked that site before.
I haven't been here for a little bit.
Yeah, it was, I don't know if you were with us or not, but, yeah, we did walk that site.
But I'm not really familiar with a lot of Carver, you know, I know
No,
the town, I
it's-
just don't know the streets and stuff.
I know there's some development going on. When you said Zero Plymouth, I wasn't sure if it was at other. And also, didn't know if Zero meant Plymouth Harbor Line or the, more towards the,
Carver, Middleborough line.
You know, it's more more towards the junction 44, no, 58.
Right,
So, yeah,
right. It's by Cape Way Rovers.
Still working. Jim, did you have anything to ask?
Nothing at this time.
Howard, did you have any questions?
And at this time, thanks.
Oh, I thought of one. First of all, they're beautiful. They look really, really nice.
That's a rendering that we picked up to kind of give you the idea of what we're gonna do. We're gonna do something to that effect.
What are you thinking the asking price might be?
I think you're around 385, under 400, so 385.
We haven't nailed it down.
Sure.
It's definitely gonna be in that range, might be a little less, we're not sure. Really. And it's really preliminary now, you know. I think the market will carry 380, and I mean, it'll burst them and be getting a boost because you get all those water bills. And you also, like I said, we put it in, and then the condo association, after we leave, maintains it, so it's never a burden on the town at all, you know. That's helpful too, you know.
I have another, so this is a lot like the development that was made in, I believe it's Hanson?
Stonebridge?
Yes.
Yep.
I see a
Yeah.
lot of similarities
So
there.
we're gonna
It is absolutely beautiful.
We're gonna try to do one story, maybe lofts for the second bedroom, and try to keep them, you know, low and just, the lot will, we actually did a fill analysis too. Everything can stay on the lot, so we don't have to go for earth removal or anything. The cuts and fills actually push around and everything works at those elevations. And we do have some levels that we can do walkouts and,
Well, I know it'll be a great selling aspect because I have a family member that put their house on the market one day and it was gone. I mean, if somebody finds out that a house is building in there, they want in.
To be honest with you, we're finishing up, we're selling the last 3 units we're doing in Hanson. We sold 28 units in a year and a half.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's a good price point. It's the market's there for it now, you know.
Any other board members have any questions?
Not at this time.
So Stephen, where do we go from here?
Well, from here, the applicant is probably so inclined to submit a Form C and go forward with special permit and site plan review.
Okay.
I'd just like some input from the planner and the fire department, if we can, and the engineers, if we can limit that road, because I didn't like that either. I mean, it's a lot of pavement, you know. You can limit that and get an access road that, you know, carries down the property line and do a buffer with trees so you don't even see it. Let's face it, that access road's probably never gonna be used, you know what I mean? It might, you know, but I mean, it's really
No.
flat shots, there's not a lot of trees, it's a wide opening.
So maybe if you can work together with,
Yeah, I can talk to Steve and, you know, try to get like a concept from my engineer, for the fire chief, and like I say, then we draw it once, you know, because this is pretty close. I mean, this new drawing he did a lot of calculations and everything, and he's to the point where he said a few days he can have the ready for a Form C. So, you know, but if we're gonna change that, I'll talk to these guys and see if we can work something out that gets rid of some of that pavement and just do a gravel drive. Do you think that's something that,
Yeah, no, I definitely think that, you know, we just spend a little more time and, you know, refining it. I
that's all we
think
can really do is
use
tuck
that
some-
back one,
yeah, tuck
and I
against the
agree
property
that
line.
the earlier you can get input, the better.
Yeah, exactly, then we're doing it once, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, all I would ask from the fire department's point of view is that we go through the process of the town planner. That keeps it very coordinated for us.
Yes.
And obviously shows the respect to the board. I have no problem working with the applicant through the town planner to try to make the process work. I am going to look at it from a public safety point of view, but that's it.
Mr. Chair, through you, I guess the only thing that I'm having, just because this is the first time I'm really looking at this, is your entranceway and the emergency access. If you're talking about increasing on the side for that 12-foot buffer or emergency access, that's going to be an awful large
Well,
view coming in.
we'd be getting rid of one of the roads and we'd reduce the pavement, keep as far to one side as we could. And then as the mouth opens up down one side or the other, we'd do a gravel road that would come down this side and we'd hide it with landscaping, you know? It's tight, I mean, at the end, you know, I mean,
Yeah, just the view of that going in, I think what's going to end up happening, it's just not going to be aesthetically pleasing, which will directly impact the success of the development.
yeah,
Obviously, we don't want a development to come in and be flat.
right. And I think, option-wise, I mean, we don't have a lot of options for roads.
Yep.
We have that layout, or waiver on the road length, or tucking a gravel road along one of these sidelines. That, you know, I don't know, you'd be down to 24 feet and 30 feet, so you'd be down, we're right there, and it's tight, you know?
You might be able to hide it with a decorative gate or something
Yeah.
on the other end, the emergency access part of it,
Yeah.
at my point, you might be able to.
Maybe be able to just throwing it out there, similar to like a farmer's gate on each side,
Yeah,
where one would be the emergency access road, the other, and that'd give them more plantings. Trust me, the fire department's getting in there one way or another.
I guess what I'd have to ask for then from the, I guess from the fire chief's perspective is, could we come in off the road and have the gates, so you came in, and, because we're not gonna be able to stay on that property just with the fillets on the end of the road and the thing, we're tight. So we'd come in and then, like you say, the road would come right off the gate.
I'd work on that design with your engineer and then float it through the planning director and through Sam,
Yeah,
and that'll get over to the fire department. We'll take a look at that.
okay. We want it to look good too, so I mean,
Yeah.
as for like dressing up the entrance or whatever to make everybody happy, we're on board with that, because like I said, we gotta sell them. streetlights, like I say, we're gonna just work with just whatever you want on that.
If anything showed us after this year's storms,
Yeah,
access around town is essential,
yeah, yeah.
and it was tough.
Yeah, no.
We had a lot of trees come down.
Yeah, that's something unavoidable though, no matter
Yep.
what you have, you're gonna, we could have double roads and you have a 100-foot tree go down over both of them, it's one of those things where that's just a freak storm, a freak winter. But we'll work, like I said, we'll work on something with that, and I'll get them to Stephen, that way you can get it to your engineer and the fire chief, just a concept, and if you like that better, we'll submit that way. 'Cause that's my whole idea of being here tonight, I wanna get in front of it and try to make everybody happy and on board, so when
We've had other developers come in, did 2 or 3 meetings like this with the planning board, so that way they don't have to spend a ton of money on engineering.
yeah, that's why I told my engineer, I said, I'll go with tonight, because it's really dollars and cents right now, if it makes sense, so, it seems to. We would still have to get, I think Steven said he'd have to talk to the board, how you guys work the bond on like the condos,
Yep.
because it's like a different setup than a roadway. I don't know if it's just the road. My insurance company asked me this too, so it's something you guys can think about.
Yeah, we'll discuss it when the application comes through. We'll make sure we have all that in place, and we'll work with you and get it right.
Okay, great, thank you. That's all set?
I think we're all set.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Chief, thanks.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Chief, for your advice.
Which ones? These ones there? I just want to go through it. That's going to be tight. Because I knew it was there.
All right, next on the agenda is, we have a public hearing on the application of Edaville Land Holdings requesting special permit approval. Pursuant to sections 2230 and 5300 of the Carver zoning bylaw, located on Pine Street in Carver, Mass. Plans prepared by Arthur F. Borden and Associates, Inc., dated, we have no date, but showing the paving and associated drainage on an existing parking lot on 2 sheets for said development. So the date on these are, see, March 23rd, 2000, so, well, we'll have to,
Need that date.
we have a new date, we have a revision date.
The original date for the submission was November 7, 2017, and the 23rd date of March 2018, I believe, comes on the heels of the Conservation Commission having heard and issued a approval with conditions on March 15th.
So I'll read the public hearing notice. In accordance with the provisions of the Town of Carver zoning bylaw and the rules and regulations governing the subdivision of land, the Carver Planning Board will hold a public hearing on July 10th, 2018, 7 p.m. in the Carver Town Hall, Meeting Room 1, on the application of Edaville Land Holdings requesting special permit approved pursuant to sections 2230, 5300 of the Carver zoning bylaw, located at Pine Street in Carver, Mass. Plans prepared by Arthur F. Borden, Inc., dated, showing the paving and associated drainage on an existing parking lot on 2 sheets for said development. Any persons interested and wishing to be heard should appear at the time and place designated. A copy of the plan is on file at the Planning Department and may be reviewed during normal business hours. Carver Planning Board, Bruce Mackey, Chair, and the Carver Reporter published dates of June 1st and June 8th of 2018.
Mr. Chair, we have here the green tickets from the USPS for certified mail dated 7/10/18. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the date of the sent for today. Forgive me, we have the green cards, I'm just not entirely aware of when they were sent out, but we do have.
Do you want to have any information about this? You want to start it off?
Well, continuing, we're joined this evening by Mr. John Delicascoli and Arthur Borden. In your packets, you'll see the public notice, the original application dated November 7th. Also contained in your packet is a statement or memo from the fire department, as well as from our peer review team at Fuss & O'Neill for the plans dated on February 20. Thank you so much, friend. For plans dated for a memo dated February 22, 2018, and subsequently, preceding that, December 20th, 2017. We had, two TRCs on this, as I'm recalling. Also contained in your packet is the decision rendered by the Carver Conservation Commission dated March 15th with conditions, as well as a letter dated March 12th, 2018 from the applicant Arthur Borden seeking certain waivers, particularly with regard to lighting, landscaping, and bike racks and driveway width. Sam Hemingway from Fuss & O'Neill is here with us this evening to speak to his memo and his review of the process.
Mr. Chair, before we go on, could somebody speak to the application? It seems to be handwritten in under briefly describe the project to codify all recent improvements and uses thereof and all establish a baseline for the future expansion. I don't remember that on the first one. What does that mean? And be specific.
Dr. Stephen can explain that.
Okay.
Can I? Oh, is this with regard to the right-of-way issue?
This here.
Yeah, okay.
It says to codify all recent improvements. What improvements was that? And uses thereof, and to establish a baseline in future expansion.
If it's what I think we're talking about, in your packet you'll see a map much like this. It was produced or prepared by Fuss & O'Neill. Sam is here to speak to it in greater detail, but it does appear that the right-of-way for Pine Street, the public right-of-way, encroaches into Edaville parking lot. Similarly, across the street on Pine Street, you can see the public right-of-way also transcends and bisects, in some cases, some of the private residences' front yards. You can see that along here as well. I understand there's nothing that codifies this beyond an agreement that may have occurred verbally, but I understand that back when Cherry Hill Drive was created as a subdivision, there were supposed to be improvements to Pine Street that may not have occurred. In that regard, I did talk to town council, and he presented to us a solution that I think the board might find agreeable. If the board is prepared to approve the application, it should do so with the condition that a license is obtained through the Board of Selectmen up until the time that the next town meeting occurs in April. At that time, the town should seek some kind of an easement. This would protect the town from liability, but also protect the applicant so that this is, as it says in the application, codified. Is that about right?
I guess the reality is this is the way it's been since 1947, so I think we're just trying to clean it up, Will.
Yeah, I got that, and just to do it in a and not have specifics of what we're trying to, i.e. codify or grant. I think we need that legal opinion for this board with this application, so that way we all know what we're saying, codifying existing issues. I don't even know if we have that right to do that.
The planning board doesn't have the right to grant the license. Town council's opinion was that we can proceed this evening with the public hearing and receive comments and continue to the next meeting on July 24th. In the 2-week interim period, I'll work with the applicant and town council to ensure that we appear on this Board of Selectmen agenda for the upcoming meeting, but that also the license is being pursued by the Board of Selectmen. So hopefully by the 24th, when we reconvene, we will have a license in place from the Board of Selectmen. That will carry us through the town meeting in April, when we can seek an easement, which can only be done at town meeting.
So what are you saying here, that the road pavement doesn't fit the road layout? Is that what it is? Okay. So just for the board members, the road has a mathematical layout which can be laid out by surveyor or engineer. And apparently the pavement, it wanders off the road layout. So that's the problem.
That's right. Several years ago, perhaps it was the town asked the county commissioners to do a formal public layout for Pine Street. Up until that time, it was a variable width by the pavement. And typically with the county commissioners, when they do layouts like that, they don't necessarily pay attention to where the pavement is. They try to lay out something that's geometrically safe so that if the town were to rebuild the road, now it would be built within that right-of-way, have, different curves to it and different grades to it. But again, that's on the town to do at that point, and as John says, that road's been there forever.
My point exactly is if this was something that was done with a whisk of a wand way back when, it shouldn't be an obligation of Edaville to have to burden that cost. It should be something that is codified or rectified by the selectmen. And it could directly impact the abutters' properties, and it could impact Edaville's. But I think without the clarification, that step taking place, it's going to be hard for me to say, well, we're just going to codify what's existing. I'll have a problem with that part of it. I don't have a problem. We've worked at little backup for the public. We've already been with this process with the applicant. We had a change in the board, and we appreciate you coming back, John. That being said, this new phrase here, if we're going to clean it up, let's clean it up right. And if it has to be at the Board of Selectmen to clean it up, working with DPW and the roadways, then that should be done. It shouldn't be at your burden.
I mean, we went forward, as you remember, Will, and Mr. Chairman and the rest of the members of the board, and, did a lot of landscaping along the road, put lights in and everything else, but berm, and we striped the street and did everything, working with DPW. We did a lot of work, to enhance it for everybody's benefit. Put sidewalks where there were no sidewalks. I mean, that's all that's been done. And that was done, through various efforts working together, like we always have and we always will. So that's the way it is. I mean, the county commissioners are what screwed the road up. So, essentially, I guess, the technicality aspect of it. We're just trying to clean it up so whatever we're doing is done and that's it. And, but it's been there. I mean, I think a case could be made technically, really, that's been there since 1947. It'd be very difficult to it's 70-something years, right?
I just don't think that we have the right to do that. I think it has to
Right,
happen
no, I mean,
somewhere
obviously the
else.
selectmen, I think that's what the town planner is mentioning, the selectmen, but I'd like to get through the rest of it, and, because that's not gonna change,
That's why I questioned why it was on the application.
Oh, right, I got you.
Only reason, because I don't think it belongs here.
Oh,
I think
okay.
it belongs.
Well, I'm fine with
there.
it changing, well, whatever you wanna do, I mean,
Nope.
it's just, we're trying to be transparent with all the issues, that's all.
So does the county layout exist for that area now?
There is a recorded public layout for
Okay.
Pine Street.
So then-
But it's no reflection of what's actually there.
Okay, so you do have a recorded roadway there, but yet the pavement was never corrected to be within that roadway. And now you've built sidewalks and berm, and that is within the roadway layout, or is it? It is.
And some of the roadways on us. I mean, so it's a combination. The point is the whole neighborhood's developed. There's no new construction happening there of any magnitude, so everybody's driveways, nothing's gonna change. It's just, I think it's just making the paperwork follow what's out there. There's no, I don't think anybody's looking to do anything else. I mean, why would you?
Well, unless they were going to repave or put drainage in the road or do something like that, they'd certainly have to maintain it within the road layout.
Right, and we're gonna provide whatever easements anybody needs to do it, so there's no impact on us. I mean, on the town. So, I think that's what the license would be, a two-way, you know?
I just don't think the license should be here, it should be with the selectmen.
Probably.
And in my, for full disclosure, when I was talking with Stephen, in your application, that's in your planning board special permit application, it's in this language. So I'm questioning whether, that it shouldn't be in this language, because I don't believe that this board has the right to approve or disapprove your application with that in there. So in a nutshell, saying that we approve your special permit and this is in it, somebody could challenge it and throw it out because that was in there and we didn't have the right to approve that phrase that you have in there. I don't believe that we have that ability to do that.
I'm gonna strike it.
And that's something we can work on. We're not going to be done tonight anyways. I just want to bring it up now at the beginning, so, because it wasn't in the previous one.
Yeah, I just don't want to have to restart again. That's
We're not
all.
going to restart.
That's all.
We're
I
gonna
mean,
get this
I
done.
understand the changes in the board, and it's nice to see some
Yep.
familiar faces back and so forth. I just, and I understand you know, there's issues and whatever, technical issues of membership, and we're working around that, and trying to accommodate.
Edaville's been a long-term partner in this community, and we're trying to get it done, and we appreciate your patience coming back and reapplying.
And we appreciate the board. The board's always been good to Edaville, and Edaville's tried to be good to the town, so.
All right, I think you may as well continue on and show us what you plan on doing here.
I think everybody's pretty familiar with Edaville Family Theme Park. Pine Street out here, Rochester Road, Cedar Avenue comes up through in the back here. This is the existing open gravel parking area now that we presented to the board in March of 2012. We came before the board to expand and make this an open guided parking lot, meaning that the parking attendants from Edaville would direct people where to park on. At that time, we also proposed to provide a streetscape along Pine Street with sidewalk, trees, the post lanterns, and an expansion in the bottom southeasterly corner here where we built a right turn lane, right turn only lane, to direct traffic right into the park. In the process of doing that, the existing entrance here exceeds your 24-foot entrance, but it's 36 feet wide, and again, in 2012, and when we came back in 2013 for a few other modifications, the board approved that. This is the 2013 plan with a little bit better detail of what the street improvements were. And on here, you can see out of where that right-of-way issue comes. Right-of-way, way back in here, the pavement actually, one is outside of the red layout on this side, is on private property. So it's, the county commissions could have done one of two things. They could have done a layout centered over the existing pavement, which probably would have made more sense than to try to do something geometrically and leave it up to the town 30, 40 years down the road to go in and reconstruct it and put it within the right-of-way. So basically what we're proposing to do is to finish what we started in 2012, 2013. We got approval for parking lot here, gravel. Now we're back with the proposal to pave it with some underground drainage systems and defined parking spaces, defined aisles, gone to the extent of actually defining an entranceway coming into the park. We have pedestrian access on both sides of it. There's raised islands on either side of it to really designate where that entrance way is going to be. Some landscaping on the islands. And again, the main entrance is two lanes in, 1 lane out. And over here, there's 2 lanes out at the existing exit over here. All of the parking spaces meet the town's requirements for size. The lanes are all 24-foot wide lanes. We've provided a little additional landscaping in some of these areas that just happen to be there. We lost about 25 parking spaces on this side to conservation because they fell within their 65-foot buffer zone to the bog on the adjacent property. We took those spaces out. That's what allowed the Conservation Commission to issue an order of conditions for us. Proposed grading, it makes 2 separate drainage areas, basically divided by the entranceway. So half the site drains this way, the other half drains this way. There's 2 underground infiltration chambers in place. Mr. Hudson O'Neill has reviewed the calculation we provided. Both systems are capable of infiltrating a 100-year storm. We're proposing to grade such that there would be in this area right here, there would be the parking lot will slope this way, and it'll slope back from Pine Street such that all of the runoff in this half of the parking lot will be captured in 6 catch basins on this side, into manholes and into the infiltration system. The other half of the parking lot drains this thing grade this way. We'll do the same thing over here. We'll grade a half a foot area for this water to drain, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, another 6 catch basins over here to capture the storm water. One of the proposals we're doing, we've asked for was consideration of lighting. There's 4 existing telephone poles in the parking lot now that run from the entrance of Pine Street kind of diagonally through the property that shed light on the entire parking area. What we're proposing to do is take those 4 lights and reposition them so that 2 are in this side and 2 are in this side. And along the islands will have post lamps on either side similar to the post lamps along Pine Street. So in effect, this will be lit like post lamps and not, bright overhead lights. We're trying to be sensitive to the neighbors. They're used to the lighting in this parking lot now with the 4 poles that are there. The utility poles that exceed your height requirement for lighting. But if we were to do the lighting per your requirements, the lighting required here would be like driving up Main Street at 10 o'clock at night. You'd need blinders on because it would be so bright. It wouldn't be beneficial to the park, and it certainly wouldn't be beneficial to the neighborhood. This lighting has worked for how many years?
At least
20 years or so. We're basically lighting the same area. Instead of diagonally this way, we'll go across the parking lot this way. The other way that we asked for was a reduction in landscaping. When we first brought this in 2012, there was no discussion about interior landscaping. We were fine with just, this could all be open gravel. And at that time, we proposed the earthen berm along the train tracks with the pine trees planted on it. And we had also proposed the streetscape out here. In the process of developing this, to make these islands work and this entrance work, we have proposed to put in raised islands with some landscaping to define, each travel entrance. The rest of it, we've let, all the other rest of the islands will be painted so that the event we have snow removal, we're not dealing with islands. And actually for surface flow for the stormwater, the islands prevent or cause a problem in getting directing the water the way you want it to go. We would need a lot more catch basins in the parking lot. For instance, if every 150 feet or so we had to put in a landscaped island to break this up, we'd also have to start expanding the catch basin system out to be able to capture the water, because we wouldn't have a decent surface flow over the way these catch basins are. Same thing over here, we wouldn't have decent surface flow if all of these islands were raised and intercepted runoff. We asked for a waiver on the requirement that you have for bike racks, because this really isn't an area that you want people riding bicycles to. It really is, it's family oriented. The family comes in the car, not a couple of kids on a bike or whatever. We thought that was a reasonable request also. We did have a site walk back in one of the coldest days in December. Hosted several of the board members. And if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer them, or attempt to get you answers.
Does any of the board members have any questions?
I'm good for right now.
I'd like to speak to the bike rack issue. I was, having been involved on the Bike Path Advisory Committee years ago that Serped requested the town form. The committee established and approved a bike route that is not widely known because it hasn't been marked yet, but it actually goes right past Edaville. It goes up Rochester Road, turns onto Pine Street, and then onto Meadow. So you don't know it yet, but you are part of the official bike route in town. It was presented and supported by the select board years ago, and also by Serped. So I see a very strong reason to at least keep some of the bike racks. I was trying to look at the bylaw, and it looks like max you would need to accommodate 15 bikes. Maybe 15 people aren't going to bike there every day, but you are on something that is a bike route, and part of the master plan is to promote biking in town. And right now, that road is narrow. If you drive it, you wouldn't think that people would ride their bikes on it, but it's a rural road in a rural area. I know that if I lived on that side of town, I was going to go to Edaville. Instead of saying, hey, get in the car, hey, we'll drive a little bit down, we'll ride bikes down there. So I don't see why it's necessary to take the bike racks out when they're a minimal part of this. And it is part of the bike route that Serped has endorsed and wants to see marked in the future.
I guess my response is, in 20 years, nobody's ever come on a bike.
I would say there has been nowhere to park it, but
But nobody's ever come, so there's never been an issue to park anything, because there's nobody's riding one.
well, but they could.
They come
And
from New Jersey and places like that. They drive.
I understand that, and I'm not discounting that at all. And I'm saying maybe people won't use the 15 a day, so potentially a reduction could be warranted or justified. But to just outright eliminate them, doesn't go along with what's been done in town in recent years and the further development in town, how there is a stress on bike riding that was documented in the prior master plan and this one. We want to look forward. Maybe people aren't biking there now, but it's a hope that people will start biking around Carver even more. No, the people from New Jersey aren't bringing their bikes, but you guys are you have such a special place in the hearts of people in Carver. I don't see why people in Carver may not bike there. And it would kind of make it extra special to be able to ride your bike to something this cool in your town. It's so special to have this, and hey, not only do I get to go and it's not 6 hours away, but I get to ride my bike there. So I would say we keep at least 1 or 2 bike racks in there. I don't see a reason that it can't accommodate even 5 bikes. I don't see the need to completely eliminate it.
Anything else?
I guess my other comment too was the landscaping. according to the numbers given, it looks like 18,000 square feet. That's how much you're short of what should be there. The 60,000 square feet should be there, but with what's there and what's proposed, it's only at 41,500. So that's a pretty big shortfall in my mind. Only half was added of what should have been. But I agree with what you said, that to have an island every 180 feet may not make sense for the parking lot or just in general, but I would like to see more of that square footage added elsewhere to get closer to what should be there via the bylaws in certain places. Kind of take it out where it is supposed to go per the bylaw and just add more elsewhere to get closer to the square footage.
You say elsewhere in the parking lot?
Well, yes, you have landscaped areas.
We can't do it. We went through this on the first hearing, which you didn't have the privilege of being here. But, this was a big stretch for us to do any landscaping there because you're wiping out parking, which is like water to a farmer at a theme park. Our position is we just can't do it. We've tried to meet you halfway based on, Will and I had an exchange on that on the way back when this first journey started on this landscaping. We felt we did this. We're not required to do any landscaping right now. We can run our business the way it is now. I'm trying to improve it. That's what working it is. We can't add any more. I mean, as it is, we've already lost a lot of parking, and that's just not acceptable. We just can't do it.
I understand.
And there's 250 acres, there's over 1,500 acres on the Edaville property. There's all kinds of open space. That's one thing we're not short of.
I don't disagree. I have been to your park many a time, but looking at it from this view, because there are changes being made, I would have liked to seen it come closer.
I can appreciate that. We just can't do it. It's as simple as that.
Well, you could, you just don't want to.
No, I'm not going to. Why would I do something that's going to affect my business when I can leave it the way it is? I'm trying to make it better.
And I think that's great.
So if you want to make it better, we have a plan in front of you that we can live with and that I think meets you halfway. If you say you're going to do this and you're going to eliminate more parking, I'm going to say leave it the way it is. I mean, I'm meeting you halfway. If halfway isn't enough, there's nothing more I can do. And I made that point the first time around. And I've spent a lot of money trying to do this to give you comfort and to improve the plan. But that's the best I can do.
And I think it's a wonderful improvement, and I wasn't part of the board the first time around. This was my first time looking at it from this angle, and those are my comments.
I have no... Listen, I'm not objecting to your comments. I'm just telling you our position. Your comments are well taken, and I think we could address some level of bike racks if you think that's would add value. I'm not going to, it's not a huge impediment to the business and so on. But what you're asking me for, the second point, is. So that's why I didn't, on the bike racks, I just explained to you that nobody's ever ridden a bike there. That's the reality of it. But I'm willing to meet you at some point. I appreciate the fact that, like on your bike rack discussion, maybe you don't need all the bike racks, maybe half would be okay. And I would consider that, and I think that's a fair comment. And I think the comment that the full landscaping is not there, but we're meeting it halfway, is also a fair comment, and that's all I'm stating.
I think at some point in time, we're going to do a site visit there because we do have new board members here with us, and we had been there before, but I think just to include everybody that's new so that we can take a look. So maybe we can take a look at what's out there now and then compare it to what what if you want to do something with it or not. Give a chance to take a look at it in the field, and see what it's like. So
I'm not saying this can't work. I'm just saying I'm going on what I'm given and the bylaws in place. So that's just where I was looking at it.
Right, and look at it from our perspective. We have more parking now than we're going to have when we finish this. but we're trying to make it better. So this is kind of meeting us and working with us, and it's a collaborative effort. Ediville's the largest employer in the town, one of the largest taxpayers, and it's an institution. More people know the name Ediville than they do Carver. So, you know, it's called working together, and I understand your point, and you're fresh to the project, and I'm glad you're here. I just want you to understand that this wasn't just thrown on there. I did it kicking and screaming to put what we already put on there. And that's, I'm at my, you know, my limit.
Okay.
So, Jen?
Sure.
Thank you. Now, this, I think that one of the biggest problems we had out there was the drainage, and there was the spillage over onto the road. Now, this new parking area is going to be a gravel parking area, right? It's not paved.
No, it's paved.
Oh, you're gonna put
Yeah,
pavement
this
down
captures
here.
all the water and resolves all that.
So it is gonna be paved. Where it is gravel now, it's gonna be paved.
Most of it, up to about 3/4 of what you see gravel today is going to be. There's still going to be a gravel towards the back operation there, and we leave that way there, Mr. Chairman, simply because that would be where the buses and RVs and things come in, and they really can't go in the parking lot with conventional sizes. You know, you have these big, people come from all over the place, and we have to accommodate buses and tour buses too. So we would put them in the gravel area because they're all different sizes, and there's no real way to space them. So that's what we're reserving that. But the area where the concerns were is all being paved, and the proper drainage has been designed and worked together with your folks. And we're confident that that is a huge improvement at a great expense to us, but a huge improvement for everybody. And, you know.
Now are the parking spaces gonna be delineated with paint?
Yes.
Okay, so,
Yeah, so people can park, now we'll still have some guiders, but it won't be the level we have now. People can self-guide, self-park, I should say.
now why did the catch basins that exist right now, why did they fail? Why did that?
They didn't fail, they just, there's, you know, you would need, you know, you're only talking at periods of high, you know, volume and very fast volume. They work quite well, actually, 99% of the time. But if you want to address the whole drainage thing, you got to do a lot more than just along the one berm there. But there was a vast improvement over what was there. But it's to solve it completely, you know, you'd have to do what Arthur has designed or something similar to that.
So now you still have the leaching catch basins, and they're connected together.
And they feed into
in a row.
the big underground retainage, or whatever you call it, rechargers. What is it called, Arthur? Infiltration, I'm sorry.
Okay. Now, where is that anyway? I saw the catch basins, I saw
Arthur
the
will
piping
point-
between the catch basins.
Bruce, let Arthur point it out to you here.
Yeah,
It might be easier.
please. So I know that there's people here tonight concerned about the drainage, so want to get this.
Well, a lot of the drainage is not my problem, okay? We all know that, they know it, it's been going around now forever, and it goes right along with the county layout.
Right.
So on. So there's existing issues, and, you know, obviously, we're trying to improve, well, just like when we built there was no sidewalks on this street, okay? Now there's sidewalks, you know, for people's safety, mothers walking the baby carriage, or people jogging, or whatever, you know, those type of things. It's a much safer situation. These improvements have been incremental. These are incremental improvements as well. But no one improvement's going to solve everything. This improvement here now will help solve what's already been partially solved.
Mr. Chairman, there's two infiltration systems proposed. One large one here that's fed by these catch basins. There's a graded area in this area here that slopes down back from Pine Street. From the parking lots, there's like an area that's about 6 inches there where they could pond there if it had to and still not overflow onto Pine Street. That takes care of this half of the parking lot. The other half grades this way. There's another system of chambers here, catch basins. I don't have a total number of chambers, but they're each nine rows of chambers, and there's multiple chambers in each row. again, the calculations provided indicated that, in the event of a 100-year storm event, we would keep our water on our property.
So these chambers, they're just big concrete chambers, are they?
Heavy-duty plastic.
Okay, so they're heavy duty.
Heavy-duty plastic.
So how big are they? Just so that everybody, will know.
Well, for the public's benefit, they're subsurface, so,
Right.
just so everybody knows they're not looking at,
Right.
They're about 4.5 feet wide, and they're 2.5 feet tall. It's kind of an arc shape. And they go together edge to edge, and there's stone around them to make up the rest of the infiltration and storage.
And how long are these?
The one on the left-hand side of the property is 360 feet long.
Huh.
The one on the right-hand side is 446 feet long. Substantial underground system.
All right.
Mr. Chair, through you, just a question. Was that ever, you're saying that's existing now, it's already been installed?
No,
Okay, thank you.
that's proposed.
Answered the question.
no. The only thing installed, Will, just to make sure we're clear, is the catch basins, a handful of them along the berm there, on the backside of the berm.
And those are going to tie into these?
Right.
Kevin, do you have any questions?
I do. The areas that you did landscape, and I see that you added the landscaping up to the top right. What if there was a possibility to put a small break, like a proposed area, where you have the lamps? I do see where you could probably pick up a couple of extra spaces where you landscape up at the top, but if you made those areas really nice, where there's like where there's 4 parking spaces on the left and the right side, maybe not necessarily on the other side of the main entrance because there's not so many spaces there. That's just a massive, massive space right there. And I would also think that you would be concerned with that much space if it wasn't governed by people that were working the flags, that you could have a potential accident. And I wouldn't want to see that for you. But I was thinking maybe right down the middle of that entire thing where those proposed areas are, maybe if you could swap the areas up in the corner that you have for parking and put like a designated spot there where the lighting is, heck, we could meet in the middle on that.
Well, the plan that's in front of you is a far cry from what I brought in originally. And, we think we've done...
Oh, I think it's excellent.
I think we've gone as far as we could. I mean, there's reasons it's designed the way it is, it's practicality, and it's, this is a different situation than... And there's a number of parking lots in town here that are that are very similar. So our position on it is, I mean, we've really thought it through, and I appreciate your thought process. I mean, we'll take it into consideration, but the reality of it is what you see there is a vast improvement over what I would like to do, at least from the board's eyes.
You understand what I'm suggesting?
Yeah, I
maybe?
understand.
Just a bit of a breakup. I mean, that's enormous. That's the biggest parking lot there, and I want to see this go forward, and I want to see this done right, and I want to see this done safely. And I'm thinking that would maybe diminish some idea of somebody being crazy and, you know what I mean, just driving around. I appreciate the fact that there's, arrows for direction, but let's face it, not a lot of people respect that. And I know the people that are coming in here are my parents, are your parents, they're us. We're not going to be like that. But I just think if there was a little bit of a breakup and we could do a little bit of maybe, swapping off of those few spaces, you wouldn't lose anything, by doing that. And it would also enhance the area that's being lit.
Well, it makes the maintenance of it and everything else and the way the whole flow of the thing change radically. I mean, right now we have a complete open parking lot, and That's really what we'd like, because that's when you look at stadium parking and everything else that's set up that way. That's how this is. If you go to Gillette Stadium, they don't have little islands everywhere.
I'm not looking
you know,
for a million, I'm suggesting
well,
maybe two, breaking it up.
I understand, but I'm just saying, you know, there are islands. We did, I mean, that whole entranceway is island, heavily landscaped with lights and everything else. You know, I'd like to see that not be there, but originally we had it all done with paint, but now we've added that, and that, you know, I don't think we're getting credit for that in the review here, but, you know,
I think you should get credit. I think the fact that you want to come before us and you want to pave this and you want the drainage to be right, it is a credit to you going forward and making this absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's great. I'm just concerned with how large that parking spot is, that parking area is, and I'm suggesting something that's no bigger than 12 or 16 feet and giving back some, some parking in an area that doesn't necessarily have to be landscaped. Not to mention, it also protects, the lighting that you have there and somebody just coming in there and tearing the place all apart on you.
well, they do that now.
Understood, and that's the reason why I like this is because you're neatening it all up and you're making it all work and you're making it work right. And I'm just making a suggestion that those 2, maybe possibly 3 areas would enhance that whole area and would also protect the lighting and would also direct the flow of traffic in there a little bit better. I mean, that's all I'm suggesting. I mean, this is absolutely beautiful. Way better than what's out there right now.
That's our opinion as well.
Not to mention, I think you would be protecting the lighting getting knocked over and hit and struck if you had some type of differentiation with a little bit of an area that's landscaped, It doesn't have to be a significant area because I don't want to see you lose any parking. I want you to fill this up every single day that you have it working.
Well done.
I'm
Is
done.
that for your comments? Jim, do you have,
I just had a quick question. On the left-hand side of the parking lot, is there any new lighting proposed? Or is it all what's existing?
You have 4 tall poles now.
Right.
And there's 4 tall poles when we're done. The only new lighting is low-scale lighting lining that main drive coming in, the post light type, traditional post lights to kind of pick up off of the aesthetics of what's along Pine Street.
So the left-hand side will stay as is, lighting-wise?
We're not proposing anything additional, correct, Arthur? That's right.
And what about that back area? Is it, I'm not familiar, I'm sorry, that back area where the buses and things go, is there lighting there now?
There's some lighting there. It's a little weak, but there's lighting there. It would be nice to have one additional light out there, just for, make mothers and children happier at night during Christmas particularly, not so much this time of the year. But, it is lit. It's just a little dim.
Okay. Because usually the buses back there now, they're usually more...
Well, right now, the bus, we haven't been, it hasn't been chock-a-block full yet.
Right.
We do direct the buses over there. When,
Okay.
Right now the buses, we can accommodate the buses more toward the front. Of course, the reason that becomes more of a bus area after it's paved is that all the lots are lined, with regular cars,
Right.
and people would feel, I think, a little, a bus, it would be obvious you're not supposed to park there versus the way it is now. So right now, we're very accommodating to the buses, and, we try to keep everybody with the shortest distance of walking as possible.
Okay, that's all I...
Cara, do you have any questions?
I think you're doing a good job to try to keep your options open. Excuse me. The bike racks, how many did they propose? I don't have it in front of me.
Well, they come with, the way a bike rack is sold, there's X amount of bikes, and then they just keep assembling them, and...
Yeah, you could add on or subtract.
And obviously, if the bike thing took off,
You could always
we'd always want to accommodate. The last thing we want to do is turn anybody off to the place, so that's not in our interest. Obviously, would like to, there's a lot of things we're going to be looking at in the future. Every commercial building I'm building now, a lot of them we're putting electrical stations to charge cars in, and I mean, whoever thought, but today,
Roll with
that's
it.
where in Marlboro, we're doing it.
Do you have any employees that ride in on bikes now?
No.
No, you
Well,
don't,
occasionally you'll
but-
have a bike, but they park out
Right,
back with the
right,
employee
and you
parking.
have a place to put
And
them,
they have,
yeah.
right, the employees, and some of them actually walk to work, because we employ the good part of the neighborhood.
Right,
It's
right.
kind of nice to walk to work,
Kids,
and Edaville's a lot of people's first job and a lot of people's last job,
Right.
interestingly enough, and there's a lot of mentoring with the seniors going with the kids, and it's kind of a neat dynamic. And it's a very, very safe place for families.
So you could ebb and flow with that, then
We
that's
could,
not a huge deal.
and I think Ms. Bogart's comments are well taken, and I think it's worth thinking about.
Sam, do you have anything any comments, and then I'll open this up to the
No,
public?
really, just to kind of remind the board, we did in fact review the drainage. There will be a significant, in our estimation, this is going to be a significant improvement to the drainage on the lot itself. I know there was some discussion, and somebody's passed around some photos of the road out front. This plan doesn't necessarily address that, aside from the overtopping that currently occurs from the parking field. That should be resolved or reduced significantly. Big improvement, I think, from the drainage system, certainly that's out there now, and from the original proposal. Otherwise, I think you've hit the nail on the head. That there are waivers required from the bylaw. I think everybody recognizes that, so, we pointed out what some of those are, but really, we're into that gray zone of what's an appropriate amount, given the circumstances of this application, and in its history. That's wholly up to the board. It's your discretion. It's a waiver at this point. It's a question of how much of a waiver you feel is right.
I mean, every project's unique, just like the prior one that came in. I mean, there might be ways you could approve that project, but it requires flexibility.
Any other questions from any board members before?
Yeah, I'll wait.
Okay. All right, this is a public hearing, and there's some people out there. If you could, we want to be able to hear the people. If you could get up and talk into the microphone, give us your name and address. If you could address me, and then we'll have somebody answer your question for you.
Ellen Germain, 24 Pine. My house, my driveway is right here. 90% of the problem I have with Edaville is really not with Edaville. Prior to the sidewalk going in, when it was all dirt, you'd get, the water would come in and it would pool up into Edaville, and in a heavy, heavy rain, it would come across where you had the little berm before, and a couple of times we called Brenda and she came down and closed the hole up to stop the water. Then when the town did the sidewalk, which they put right smack on the white line, so it leaves Pine Street very narrow. So you talk about bicycles, you wouldn't want to be riding a bicycle when there's traffic on Pine Street, because somebody's going to get hurt. There's no place to go. It's narrow. We get a rainstorm now, and I've said this before, so you all know this, and you got pictures in your folders. Every drop of water on Pine Street and Cherry Hill Drive crosses 2 or 3 times and then takes a sharp left turn and goes right in my driveway. So it undermines my entire driveway. It goes running into my pond, which used to have fish and some life in it. There's nothing there anymore. Then it runs out into the woods. And it's created, actually, I was mentioning this to Steve the other day, it's actually created wetlands where we never had wetlands before. So now I'm losing property. A couple severe rainstorms, yes, it did come across the sidewalk. Originally, when these plans were originally produced, I had asked Andy at Foss and O'Neill at a meeting one night, was this adequate? And he had said no. And then I guess you guys worked on a different plan, and that's when this came up with, and the new drainage. And you're pretty confident that this will work. And I'm okay with that. I just want to know, and you remember I asked you this question, what's the plan B? So we spend all of this money, which is a considerable investment for John, and he does all the drainage, and we put in all this asphalt, and it doesn't work. Water tables are too high.
now what? We also have an issue, and John Woods had to leave for a meeting tonight. They're well aware, the town is well aware, that they have to do something with the drainage. I think they'd like to see this get combined in so that once this is approved and they know exactly what's going to happen with the Edaville area, they can then deal with what's going to happen with Pine Street. So it's a real big deal to us because I can't improve anything in the front of my property at all until we fix the water. And now it's so bad because of the sidewalk that even a simple drizzly rainy day and there's water running down my driveway. That real hard one we got the other day that didn't last all that long. I guess we got like an inch, but it didn't last that long. My pond was down maybe 3 feet, and by the time that was over, it was running back out into the woods. So I like what John has done across the street. I'd like to see it look a little bit nicer, and I think that's what will happen. And in all, I don't have a complaint about Edaville. I like to hear the steam whistle once in a while, but you know, we don't even hear the horn anymore. So it's not bad. It is a family park. Thank God it's not Six Flags. Thank God they're not open till midnight. I'm thrilled with the fact that it is pretty quiet. People do get going to head out this back area. You can see cars, and it's not his fault, but you'll see cars out there and they're doing 50 miles an hour before they get to that turn because the dust is flying, the rocks are going. Once in a blue moon you get a kid doing donuts. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. I don't want to see speed bumps because the problem with speed bumps is now we have water issues. So now we have a water dam. So that requires you now put in more drainage. So my only concern is it is so wide open. I don't want to see it become a quarter-mile racetrack. You know, it's a quiet neighborhood, and Edaville has tried to coexist with the residents who have tried to coexist. And people say, well, Edaville was there when you got the house. Yeah, it was. But it was nothing like it is. So, you know, we have a strip mall across the street that the people here can look at. They didn't plan on it being a Walmart. You know what I mean? And that's what I don't want to see. Edaville, it's a great thing for the town. I just don't want to see it not grow the way it should grow and take in effect the neighbors. Kind of like I addressed this to the board, walk a mile in our shoes. You know, you're welcome to come down and hang out for a day and see what we go through. And it's not a bad thing, but it's not always roses. John's been a good neighbor, but he's not a cop. And people, the parking lot, he's 100% right. 50%, 75% of that parking lot is now out-of-state plates. So they do. They come from, I think I saw in Indiana the other day, and I'm thinking to myself, what the hell would you come up here from Indiana for? You know? But it was I followed them down Rochester Road, as a matter. It was Indiana. So they do. They come from everywhere.
And all those people are spending money at vendors in this town.
And that's absolutely right, because they come out of Edaville and they come somewhere else in the town and they spend money. And I don't have any problem with that. I really don't. I wish him great success because he's got a lot of overhead. I wouldn't want his insurance cost to have an amusement park. I'm sure it's sizable. So I'm not trying to crucify him, and I'm not here to be adversarial. I think he's done a good thing. I just want to know what happens when it doesn't work. That's all I'm asking. Where do we go? I'm not saying it's not going to work, but I don't want to hear like what we have with Pine Street right now with a oops with the county commissioners. We go back in the drawings 25 years and Pine Street was going to be straightened out. The hill was going to be removed. My next door neighbor's oak tree was going to be cut down and the street was going to be straightened. And it never happened. So now we have Pine Street that has become a massive oops. And unfortunately, if I build a berm across my driveway, then we're going to have 2 feet of water in the street before it can run into some other place. So I don't want it to be another oops, is all I'm saying.
Now, you have talked to the DPW before. I
John
remember
has been promising me for years and years and years and years, we're going to fix it, we're going to fix it. And then The improvements started to be in the talks, so that became the reason to hold off. He was coming last year, the 1st of May, I'll be there. And now this year, we're supposed to be in the spring, but we're gonna wait and see what John's doing. And now he says sometime in July, he's gonna come down and have a look at it. So the faster we can move as a board on this, the faster perhaps something can happen with me. But I don't know where they're gonna put my water. I mean, where they're gonna put the street water. They can't dump it on my property, so, and there's no place else to go with it unless John lets them make use of his underground, and you can't ask him to take the street water. You can't put street water on private property. So I don't know what the solution is gonna be. I don't know if Fuss and O'Neill has looked at this problem. I know that we have had a town engineer look at it. Might have been you. No? We had some, you know who we had
Jerry
now?
Fosterson.
Who?
Jerry Fosterson.
He's not an engineer.
Well, whatever. I know that Dick Ward, when he was a selectman, he was down there. You know, this has been going on for, well, since the sidewalk went in, since before the sidewalk went in.
So,
You know, and I don't want it to be adversarial. I want to be good neighbors, and I want them to be good neighbors.
So-
We need to live together.
through you, Mr. Chair, you asked what's Plan B? Well, Plan A is all the water that is on the private property of Edaville has to stay on there. Okay? So that's what they're designing. We have a consultant that's working with their engineering to make sure that in a 100-year storm, that would happen. The existing water problem is the existing water problem. That's a town thing. Because of the way that...
The town thing will until the sidewalk went in.
It's always been a town thing. The only reason why you see it now is because the sidewalk was put in
It's the funnel.
on private property to better enhance the parking lot. So then it becomes a funnel problem. But what happened when all that water was going into Edaville's parking lot?
It was running into the sand, and then some of it was coming back across. Oh, absolutely. I agree
Same
with you.
thing. So the
town
improvements,
dropped the ball.
so the Plan B is the town needs to address that issue. The Plan A is that it's up to John to provide the absolute best engineering to keep all that water that's going to be on that surface
Right.
on his property.
The
And
fact
that's why
is
we have a
what he has
consultant.
right now, through the chair, what he has right now does, as it sits right this minute, with no improvements, very little times do we get water coming across the sidewalk. It's got to be a real heavy, heavy storm. When the basins fill up, they don't really go anywhere except they interconnect, and then they fill up and they can't run any further. It's like I have the town put one in front of my driveway.
Well,
There's
they
a
have to
hole.
infiltrate.
Well, yeah, there's some,
But only to a certain
eventually,
rate.
right. You go look at mine right now, there's water, mine's down about this deep, and you see water, because the town put that, like a dry well.
Yeah.
And I look at it as it's a glass, and when the glass fills up, it then runs all over the counter, because that's exactly what happens to these basins. So I have no doubt that this system will work for the most part, because 90% of it now is the street. It's not John's property. In a heavy, heavy rain, it comes across, but it's got to be outrageous. So that's as it sits. My question is, will this system work once it's a non-permeable surface?
And that's for them to design it,
That's,
the engineers to say, yeah, this will work according to all the calculations that can be
And-
provided. In a perfect world, will it never rain again? We'd be in trouble.
but there it goes, now it goes back to my original question. What's the plan B if all of these calculations are inadequate, if they don't work, then what?
They have, if as long as his water is staying on his site, he's good. If you still have flooding coming off the street because of Cherry Street and because of Pine Street, that is not.
You're missing my question.
No, I'm not. I've got it 100%. I'm looking at the app. Don't tell me what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the application that's sitting in front of me, which is Edaville, USA. I'm looking at that application. I'm not looking at all the neighborhood, all of Pine Street, all of South Meadow. I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at his application. So if we want to include Pine Street and we want to include Cherry Street, then this is a much bigger thing, but it's not John to provide that engineering.
That's not what I'm asking at all. What I'm saying is that when this is a non-permeable surface.
Yes, sir.
What happens if the drainage that's being put in does not contain his water?
Again, I'll say it again. He has to provide that engineering during this application, what we're starting today,
Okay.
that application for a 100-year storm. And that's all in numbers. So when the glass is full, the glass is full, as you said.
Okay.
Okay? It's up to him to provide that information. I'm an electrician. I'm not an engineer. I'm not an ecologist. I'm not a wetlands professional. We have a consultant, Fussin O'Neill, that does that peer review to ensure that upon all the numbers and all the calculations and what they're providing to be designed in their parking lot, that they will meet those requirements. That's the best we can do.
So you're telling me there is no Plan B?
Well, let me
If
just
I
say-
can't satisfy it, then there isn't.
When you design a subdivision, when you design a commercial property, it takes in the water shed from the property, goes out into the road, and everything's designed so that the water doesn't spill over into other people's property. And there's a scientific method for that.
Yes, I understand that.
And so that's why, the subdivisions shouldn't have water problems, and there shouldn't be water spilling out in the street. All I can say is Sam's looked at this, and you've reviewed the calculations, and to you, everything is fine.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the Plan B is that if there's a problem, if there's a flooding problem, it's because there is an issue. And Plan B is go find out what's happening. It's got clogged full of leaves over the 30-year period, or some other issue has occurred, and it needs to be resolved.
Do you think the basic structure is adequate, that's going to work just fine? That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for miracles, Will. I'm not asking for guarantees. I certainly don't want you to come down and fix it yourself.
I won't.
I'm simply asking, if it doesn't work, then what?
Particularly when you have catch basins, and it's good that it's going to be paved. If it's a gravel surface and it's going into catch basins, sometimes that gravel goes down, fills up the catch basin so it doesn't work properly. But if you were going to pave this area, then that kind of helps the flow, and it keeps the debris out and stuff like that. If something fails, it would be, as Sam said, it would be because maybe some sand got in there,
Right.
if the parking lot was sanded, or if there was leaves and that infiltrated down into the catch basin. And that can be maintained and cleaned out so that it would work again.
Well, I'm assuming that there is maintenance involved with this kind of a system anyway.
There is a maintenance plan.
Yeah, like there always would be.
Maintenance protocol with all drain systems.
Yeah, with all drainage.
We'll do it anyway.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, we can take a look at that, at the end of the day.
Thank you.
Did you want to speak? If you could just give us your name and address, please, and
I'm David Burns, 36 Pine Street. I am across the street from the overflow parking lot where the buses, I assume, will be put now.
The gravel section?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I just have a few questions. Is this now an entrance only? Or is there still one lane directing out? Okay, because it's the way it's aiming from sitting over there, it looks like an entrance only. Because there's no...
There's 3 lanes there.
I can see that from here, but I couldn't from there. And from here, the way it curves, it makes it look like an entrance only.
Okay.
So I just wanted to ask the question because the berm is over, the hill is here, which makes it very difficult for people pulling out of here to see cars coming over the hill. I just wanted to make sure for the safety issue. As for the drainage, I didn't see. Are we putting drainage on either side of the driveway so that the water does not run out?
There's a system in here that takes care of this entire parking lot.
Yeah.
And the system over there takes care of this.
And where are the intakes? Okay, well, shouldn't the catch basin be here by the driveway so the water doesn't cross out of the driveway?
This site flows in this direction.
graded to a certain grades.
It's gonna be graded that way? Because originally with the dirt parking lot, I believe you were a -8 grade, -8 degrees. And then when you came in with the gravel, et cetera, and you leveled it out, you became like a +8, because before the water from the street used to puddle in your property. And the only thing keeping it on your property was that earth berm that was out there. Once the earth berm was gone, then it was kind of free. But if this is going to be paved, the catch basin should be closer to the driveway so the water doesn't leave the driveway. That's all I'm saying. It would make sense for that.
Well, when you explained, if you remember on the presentation, you read the parking lot that was the closest to the sidewalks was actually back graded towards Edendale. And it's actually a low point in that yellow section is there.
Yeah.
In other words, show them out there, the way it's back graded, it's actually counter graded. So
I live there. I drive by it every day. I still see water line through. That's what I'm saying.
That's what's there now. We're gonna regrade this
Okay.
so that there is a
well, we can't regrade it now
I understand that.
because the grading that Arthur's proposing ties into the system. Without the system, you can't regrade it. Once you regrade it, you're pointing you're actually directing the water
I understand that.
to a certain thing.
Now, last time when you did the parking lot, it was done like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we can't have that. That was detrimental to me. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to work, and I couldn't get any sleep. And I think that as much as I want to see all of this done, I'd like to see it done between like the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., say Monday through Saturday, give us Sundays, and give us our nights where we can sleep. We ask that as a courtesy to the people who live there. I think it's a fair assessment, and I think it should be put in the wording that the vehicles, we won't have trucks lining the street like they were last time, blocking us from coming and going, and we'll be able to sleep at night. We shouldn't have that again. And that's really the only thing that I want from John is no trucks on the property and idling before 7 a.m. and no trucks and no work after 7 p.m. because I would like to enjoy my home as much as everyone wants to enjoy theirs. And I can't hear the whistle, can't hear the train whistle, etc. if I'm listening to the trucks idling. I like the sound of Edaville. I bought my house there for a reason. I love the train. I love watching everything go through. But let's give the homeowners a courtesy, and let's put it in writing this time so that this does not happen to us again.
We can make some conditions for that.
That would be greatly appreciated. And I'm pretty sure since it won't be paying overtime costs, it might take a few extra days. But cost-wise, it should come out about the same. It's really not hurting John. And it gives him what he needs, and it gives us what we need. The man deserves to make a living. The town needs him. But I pay a lot of taxes in town, too. She pays taxes, too. You add up our houses around Edaville, and we're a substantial number also. We need that consideration, and we would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. How long would this project take?
Well, first of all, we're not going to be working anytime past 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
I could be able to get people to work till 3:30. But the hours that he's proposing, 7 to 7, 6 days a week, that's no problem whatsoever, as far as construction work is concerned. Obviously, Edaville's open some nights, during Christmas and things. But as long as this is germane only to the construction aspect, I'm fine with that.
Yes, John, only to the construction.
But,
Last time
there's
was
no problem.
crazy.
Yeah, I don't remember working that late, but I'm not gonna spend a lot of years now since all the heavy lifting of the remodeling of Edaville. So it was all a blur to me at this point. And we worked so hard over there. But as far as going forward, I have no problem with what he's suggesting or what the board would suggest. I think that's a reasonable time frame.
Alan?
Just one more quick comment, if I may. I haul gravel and we do a lot of gravel sites, and the start times and the close times for like Oak Point and Willis Circle, so forth and so on, 7 to 3:30, 7 to 4 o'clock. Very rarely do you see anything beyond 5 o'clock for construction trucks. So I think it's very generous, 7 to 7. And I'm willing to bet money that John's not going to get anybody working in there on a Saturday either. So I'll leave it to his good judgment. But I really think that most likely it's going to be a 7 to 3:30 to 7 to 4 o'clock kind of a thing, because these guys just aren't going to be out there with flashlights come the cold weather putting asphalt down.
The reality is sometimes when you're doing an asphalt job, though, you're putting it down, you don't want the seams, and, sometimes it does spill over a little bit. But that's when you're paving, not so much when you're doing drainage and all that, when all the excavators would be there and things of that nature. And this job would have to be, the drainage would have to be built during the winter, and then the paving would happen just prior to opening. It's probably how we do it, because you can't run the park and do this work simultaneously. It would have to be done at periods of time when we're closed. It's a substantial investment. Just paving it alone, forget the drainage.
Yeah, that's a massive amount of pavement. A lot of money in there.
A lot of tons. Rochester bituminous will be very happy.
Any other questions, comments from the public? Why don't we schedule unless some of the board members have anything, any other questions to ask, why don't we schedule a site visit?
I just got one thing, and I didn't see it in the packet because we just got it, and I want to make sure that it's included in the packet. I know I asked for this the first time. You're talking about the lighting fixtures. I've seen that you added more light fixtures in the landscaping area. So I'm looking for a lighting design, the style, and the photometrics plans, because I want to see the spillage for the neighborhood. What else did I write down? I don't know if I have this calculation correct, so maybe you can help me with it. On the landscaping end, you're saying, if I've got this right, there's a total area being provided is 41,000 square feet roughly of total landscaping that's being provided, or is that already existing?
Square feet of new landscape.
Of new, but am I reading this correctly? The total landscaped area provided is approximately 41,500 square feet. Yeah, so I'm reading that right. So you're providing 17,000 square feet more to come up to that number?
Yes.
Thank you for that clarification.
The lights, could I help clarify
Yeah.
that a little bit? So the lights, other than the 4 lights that we've spoken about that are there, the high ones,
Yep.
the lights on that new entrance road that, we talked about, doing greening that up and landscaping that with some flowers and things.
Yep.
Those are the low-profile lights that you see there now along the sidewalk, which really don't impact the neighborhood at all. And they're all further from the neighborhood than what's there already by the neighborhood.
Yep.
In other words, it's all internal Edaville, essentially.
Yep.
There's nothing more moving out there, for whatever it's worth.
So basically, just so I'm clear, and we know exactly, because I just want to see it on a plan, where you're putting the lights and the photometrics spread of it. And that should be easy enough for you to do, so
I'm
that
just
way
saying the
it's
little lights
provided.
really don't spread that much. It's more of just lighting up that driveway,
Yeah, it's the
Because
tall ones
that's
I'm
where all the
talking about.
traffic is up in the middle, right? Like we talked about, is directing that and safer for people. I think you had a very good point the first time around, which was, people walking from a great distance, having that sidewalk there is a nice thing, and then we incorporated that.
Yeah, so I just want to see that at the final plan for us, so that way we don't have to keep rehashing it. You know what I'm looking for. That was the only thing. And then you had in here, and I guess it's one of the comments in your comments that you provided with us, Edaville respectfully requests that the board reaffirms the previous approval and grants waiver to the requirements of the section. I think that's referring to the entranceway.
Yes.
I'm only going to want to see, I want to see that previous vote from us.
Sure.
just so that way, and maybe you have it, so that you can provide that
I
to
also
us.
don't remember, Will, but
Yeah, I just don't want to reaffirm without having the actual document.
I understand.
Yep.
You want to know what you're voting on?
You know it. Other than that, I gotta tell you, you took a lot of our previous comments from our previous meetings to heart, and I think you've done a great job at it. I'm happy to see the additional greenscape there. I think the traffic flow will be better defined with it. Obviously, I was looking for more landscaping, but the numbers that are provided to us, I think speaks volume. So that's why I wanted to reaffirm that.
Well, we listened to you loud and clear, and we did the best we could with it.
Yep. That's all I got for now.
All right, let's want to schedule a site visit.
So when we go out, what do we want to see? Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
What's your hours of operation?
10 to 6.
10 to 6 every day? It's just trying to figure out what's going to be a good time that we're not going to interrupt
Right.
the flow of patronage. That's all.
Well, it's light till 9.
Yeah, which is
So-
great.
So, we could, if we do it now, this summer, we could, we could be out later. So, anytime after 6 o'clock then, huh?
Fine.
Yeah.
Normally, I'm the one with all the problems. I like the idea of being after 6 o'clock. Mondays and Tuesdays after 6 are good for me as long as I don't have a meeting scheduled.
That would be good for me too, yeah.
Just because we can get it done. And the only thing that I'd be looking for is maybe you can identify with some cones, the landscape, proposed raised landscape, where you're going to put those islands on the entranceway. And I think you should corner mark out the leaching fields where those sub-basins are going to go in with just cones, so we can visualize that. I think that'd be good. You're not, another question, you're not doing anything with the unpaved area, correct? You're going to still leave that unpaved for the big buses and stuff?
But that's around the corner, basically, where the, where kind of where the heavy existing tree line is along Pine Street.
Yep.
And so if we're going to have to do that mark out, I don't think we can do that while we're open. So we're going to probably have to be something like, we need a little bit of time to rough that in.
Yeah.
Because people would be driving over it,
Sure.
Unless we can spray paint it.
Spray paint it with white spray paint,
That's even easier.
yeah.
That's
Maybe-
even
Maybe
easier.
do the corners or something.
Yeah, that's even easier. Obviously, I don't want us to be out there while you still have people in the park, because even though you close at 6, I remember trying to get people out of there. We're in no rush to get them out.
So we could meet at like 6:30, 7 o'clock, if we had to.
What's good for you guys? Both of those times
We'll
work.
work around your
Those would be
schedule.
good for me. That would be good.
That's fine.
Mr.
7?
Seven?
You say 7's good?
7,
Say
okay.
7?
Yeah, that would be fine. So if we could have the, maybe the drainage areas just marked out,
We'll
bracketed.
do the 4 corners, maybe
Yeah,
we'll
the
do those in
4
one
corners.
color of a paint.
Yeah, maybe where the
parking,
the planters,
another
yeah.
color.
And then if you could also spot the
I want to
lights
say
where you're
the
gonna place the,
because next Monday
where
we're
you're gonna
meeting,
put the,
right?
the new lighting out there.
The
large
The
lights?
pole, yeah, the post, where you're gonna put the post.
The 24th is our next meeting.
I'm looking at that.
Anything else anybody would like to see? Anything else? Did I forget anything?
That's right.
How's everybody liking the 23rd, Monday night?
That's what I was looking at.
That would work.
John, you guys good? Pat? Make a motion to schedule the site visit for Edaville Railroad for the 23rd at 7, we say?
Yes.
7, okay? Okay.
Second that.
A motion and a second, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, those, yeah.
Thank you. That's it.
We'll see you out there. If you have any questions, you
Continuation until the 24th.
can ask.
I make a motion to continue the public hearing to the 24th of July at 7 o'clock.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, good night, folks.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Art.
Might be reviewing the plan south.
Okay, on other business, we have planning board member notes. Does anybody have anything to say tonight?
What's that? I miss that one. So what? You should be more vocal.
Refrigerator in this room.
Well, when we first came, it was very hot, and yeah, then it went the other way.
I love it.
Well, you have a lot to keep you warm.
It is so. Yeah,
That's to keep the sun off.
Yeah,
I don't need sunscreen on my face,
that's to keep the meeting moving along, nobody falling asleep. Yeah, so anybody have anything they'd like to say tonight?
I'm good.
Seeing none, planning director's notes.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to hand out a packet that I received yesterday. Mr. Sinclair, if I could ask you to take one and hand it down. That letter there and the file, or the motion that's with it, is prepared by the planning board and, the legal counsel representing the planning board, the ZBA. Yes.
Mr. Chair, through you. Question whether or not there should be an executive session due to its pending legal that the planning board is involved in.
Yeah, that means we just can't discuss it.
In open session, we can go to,
Yeah, we could go, but do we have to read that?
go to executive session.
There's an executive session statement that typically has to be read in, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's,
And I don't have that with me tonight. If maybe we could just take this home with us, and then maybe we could talk about this in executive session the next meeting.
Absent content, Mr. Chairman, there's no action or discussion that's necessary on the planning board side, and even beyond the content that's contained therein, this has already been filed with the courts. Tomorrow, the ZBA meets, and it's the legal counsel's expectation that this will be resolved at that time.
All right, so we'll just take it home and read it.
Like you told me to give this out today.
I'm just concerned if we're still in litigation.
All right, everybody set? Okay, we go on to the minutes of June 26, 2018.
Oh, minutes.
The minutes, yep.
Fortunately, I can't locate my minutes.
I read them before. I read them before the meeting, so I'll just jump out there and make the motion to approve them as written to get that started.
I will second that motion.
I can't really say anything. I wasn't on the planning board at the time.
Mentioned in them.
Oh, I read these.
Do you want to keep the Edaville roll?
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the next meeting date.
July 24, Mr. Chairman.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
We have motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you and good night.